So in our Hawaiian volcano summary this week, Kilauea had an 8.5-hour eruption on a southwest rift on Monday. Eruption began at 12:30 in the morning and ended by 9 a.m. as far as lava exiting the ground. Lava flows were still moving slowly until about noon on that day, but officially it's being called an 8.5-hour eruption by the USGS HVO. This is some of the footage of that initial fissure, which opened in 4 segments and put out a fairly small pad of lava, about 90 acres. In total, about 0.1 million cubic meters, 100,000 cubic meters. So that's a lot smaller than recent eruptions, and it was a lot briefer as well. And furthermore, there has been ground cracking detected downrift of this area, so it seems likely that magma was on its way past this eruption site, and much of the work was done underground as magma intruded downrift, and a little bit of it was able to leak out through the area that had been cracked previously in the intrusion in late January of this year. So for now, the eruption is being called paused, but also being said to be highly unlikely to resume. And we can look at that with the USGS report here, which describes just that. One thing that was happening was ongoing tremor and gas being emitted from the vents, as well as glow incandescence. And that has been decreasing steadily since the eruption on Monday. So at present, there are still above average gas emissions coming from the site, and VOG is impacting the island fairly widely. But near the source, things are fairly wound down. The map of the eruption looks as such. There's 4 fissure segments and a very small pad of lava. The eruption occurred very near the 1974 fissures, but with a much smaller volume of output and area covered. Looking at what's happening overnight, this is a time lapse from the S1 camera. It was deployed after the eruption was waning. So what you're seeing is the last 3 nights of glow from this view. So I'll play it again. There is the first night of glow. The second night's a little bit less, and the third night is even less than that. So that's the overall decline of the gas and the glow from the S1 camera. Also on a S2 camera, slightly different point of view, but the similar pattern there. And one last one that actually was positioned before the eruption began up on Mauna Loa that catches the beginning of the eruption and the glow from the very start. There it starts, but it's not nearly as close there. You can see there's a second night, and here comes the third night. Still glow visible from a fair distance up near 6,000–7,000 feet on Mauna Loa. So this last one I'll play one more time and just zoom it in and see that sequence a little more closely, because that's been the main impact to people, has been the gas billowing from this fissure system and dispersing around the island. So that was the summary of the eruption. At present, we can look at the Sandhill ground tilt meter, and the line in green is looking at that South Caldera area. This signal in here is all the adjustments and propagation of the magma into the eruption site. And since the adjustment here, what you can see is it's actually resumed inflating at a fairly high rate. So the area that was tapped for this eruption is recharging fairly quickly in the South Caldera, whereas it also is recovering a little less quickly in the main caldera by Halemaʻumaʻu. So the South Caldera is still inflating and expanding, while at the summit, we're seeing a little bit more contraction. That's it on Kilauea. Mauna Loa has not seen any effect. Earthquakes are still at a very low rate at the summit and beneath the upper elevation flanks. And that's our Hawaiian volcano summary for this week.